Good morning to all of our guests, the family and friends of SallyAnn Gray. I welcome you to her final dissertation defense titled An Examination of How School Administrators' Perception of Growth Mindset Influences Transformational Leadership, a Phenomenological Study. I just want to say on behalf of SallyAnn's entire committee as the dissertation chair, Dr. Hazel Beaumont, Dr. Rathy, Dr. Pierre Sasso, as well as Dr. Tana Jackson, we are beyond proud of SallyAnn. There have been many mornings, afternoons, many evenings and nights where we have been in communication through phone, through text message, as well as through Zoom sessions, going through what SallyAnn will present to you all today. And I know without a shadow of a doubt, you all are not only going to have a new level of awareness when it comes to school administration and leadership. But I believe even as educators, it's going to challenge you all to rethink about, well, what does it truly mean to not only be a leader, but to serve as well as lead those that we oversee. I am, like I said, beyond proud. And other than our committee members who are here are beyond proud of what SallyAnn is going to be presenting today. And at this time, I also would like to turn it over to Dr. Tana Jackson just to have a few words, and then SallyAnn Gray will begin her presentation. Dr. Jackson?
Yes, good morning. I apologize deeply for my voice. I have the flu, but I am happy to be here. Gray was one of my students. I know that she's going to do a phenomenal job today. So just wanting to send some words of encouragement that you're here, and have made it to this point. So just thankful to be here. Thank you guys so very much.
Thank you for the kind words, Dr. Jackson. I know our other committee members have been sending me direct messages. They are beyond proud and excited, and they just want SallyAnn to go ahead and have the floor. So SallyAnn, I turn it over to you.
All right, good morning, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Alexander. As mentioned before, my study is an examination of how school administrators' perception of growth mindset influences transformational leadership, and this was a phenomenological study. I want to go ahead and just give thanks to my advisory committee, Dr. Justin Alexander, who is my chair. I have called you morning, I have called you noon, and I have called you night. And you have been responsive. Thank you so much for helping to guide me through this process. And here we are. I want to thank Dr. Pietro Sasso. I would like to also thank Dr. Hazel Bowman and Dr. Tana Jackson, who have served as my advisory committee to this point. Now, before I jump into the research, a little bit about me, what I do, and why did I choose this topic. So I'm SallyAnn Gray. You know, I love God. I'm a wife, I'm a mother, I'm a daughter, and I'm a friend. I love people. I love when people grow. And those of you who know me, my mantra is simple. I remain committed to growth in all areas of my life. And when I grow others. I'm a teacher by profession and a developer of people by purpose. I've held multiple roles in education over the last 2 decades. I've been a special ed teacher. I've been department head. I've been head of school of one of Jamaica's first sales institutions. I have been a school inspector in Jamaica. I work for the government. I used to write curriculum for the Jamaican government. And then in migrating to the United States in the last 3 years, I served as teacher, and most recently, I was promoted to transition specialist. I'm one of 7 transition specialists with the Savannah Chatham County Schools. And I love to see students meet their goals and prove people wrong about the labels that have been placed on them. Now, why did I choose this topic? If you guys look at this picture here, that blue arrow is over my head. I was a young 17-year-old student at the prestigious St. Andrew High School for girls in Kingston, Jamaica. But, you know, just a little bit about my background before I got here. I was given away by my birth mother at the age of 3 months. And when I found out between the ages of 11 through to 13, I was scarred mentally, and it led to me acting out. It led to me also being misunderstood, and I was kicked out. I was misunderstood by teachers, and I was misunderstood by the principal who kicked me out. She has since, though, become a trusted mentor and colleague and friend. And she employed me 4 years later after kicking me out of high school as the first special ed teacher at St. Andrew High School for girls. And her ability as a school administrator to see beyond what my challenges were, my perceived traits were as a teenager, is really what led to my love affair with education, with mindset, with leadership, and with growth. And my ability to see beyond my current circumstances and of myself and of others and focus on the possibilities has been fueled by my own personal story. So being that I struggled with mindset in my formative years because of my past, and seeing what growth mindset has done for students, for teachers, and everyone involved in the education process, when an administrator leads with growth and transformation at the forefront, has really led to me wanting to examine this. So after 3 long years of doing coursework and internship and all the likes, it has come to this, and I'm extremely excited to present my research to you. So let's jump in. So my dissertation comprises of 5 chapters, and for the purpose of the presentation, I've condensed like about 187 pages in a few slides. I will provide a brief overview of the components of each chapter, and the focus will more so be on chapters 4 and 5, discussing my research findings and recommendations for future research and conclusions. So in chapter 1, as you would see on the screen, these are the components of my chapter 1. Now, research conducted by Boyce and Bowers 2016 shows that school leaders exit schools for their perceived lack of influence, their inability to form a cohesive school climate, and the attitudes that exist. As a result, many states have sought to refocus professional standards for school leaders in instructional leadership. Now, many school districts in the United States have designated district-level personnel to provide mentorship and professional development via coaching to school leaders. It is essential then to look at the operational mindset of leaders within educational institutions, and irrespective of the broad range of goals, the direction, the policies set forth either by our government, state, and local boards, how the leader leads is important. So examining the mindset that influences their approach to a broad range of educational issues faced in educational institutions may contribute meaningful insight into the development of leaders who must now be open to global mindset approaches and being growth-oriented in order to see best results. Statement of the problem. According to data analyzed by Davis and Anderson, 20% of United States school leaders leave their schools each year. And this alarming statistic leads us now in the education space to find new ways to support our leaders in their work. So we want to improve supervisory practices by educational leaders and support them through development. And that is an emerging priority of state efforts in order to strengthen school leadership. What is the purpose of this study? The study sought to do a number of things. First off, it was important to me as the researcher to create a space where administrators could reflect on their mindset and how it impacts their growth and their leadership practice. The study also sought to increase knowledge and understanding of how and to what extent growth mindset impacts a leader's ability to be transformational and affect positive change. The study also sought to understand the implications for best practice training and development for school leaders with an aim to help them maximize their effectiveness and create innovative institutions that remain relevant to our incoming students. Now, we would understand the difference between millennials and Gen Z and different generations. And we know with every generation, there comes a different set of needs. And so, one of the things is that my students would often ask me, Miss Gray, what's the point of learning this? Or the point of being in school, or what's the point of this or that? And so we want to position ourselves in education to remain relevant to the incoming student body. Now, what does that mean as an educator is that what we did 40 years ago and what worked 50 years ago may not be the best approach today. Research questions. Now, I had 3 research questions, and questions 1 and 2 had 4 sub-questions each. And that's what formed the basis of the survey that was answered by the participants. Research question 1, what impact does growth mindset have on school administrators' ability to be transformational in their leadership approach? 2, what kind of influence, if any, does a growth mindset have on a leader's ability to grow and effect positive change in the institutions they lead? And what are the attributes of a transformational leader? Now, this study was embedded in 3 different theoretical frameworks. I studied and reviewed very carefully the fixed and growth mindset theory that has been tabled by Dr. Carol Dweck. She is a professor at Stanford University and one of the foremost leaders on mindset research. It was her and her team, along with Dr. Yeager, who came up with the growth and fixed mindset theory, and this research was embedded heavily in that. I also reviewed the transformational leadership approach, which was initially in 1978 proposed and tabled by Dr. James Burns, and also appreciative inquiry, which was the basis for the development of the research questions. Now, David Pookrider and Dr. Shiresh Shrivastava came up with appreciative inquiry as a strength-based approach towards system change in 1987, and it has since been widely used in the education space. What is the significance of the study? The research examined the possible connection between growth mindset, and Simpson in 2014 indicated that further research was needed, especially as it relates to transformational leadership in schools and how it impacts growth. Now, one thing to note is that many researchers have studied mindset mostly in corporate settings. And when Dr. Dweck and Yeager did their mindset the research and carried it out in school, there was a heavy focus on student and teacher populations and how students think and how teachers think, but there was very limited research on the principal population. So as the researcher, that is the gap that this research aimed to fill. Now, there were a couple of delimitations and limitations to this study. First, the researcher found that it might have been useful to broaden the preset criteria to avoid a small sample size. So I had set up a preset criteria and I was like, this is the profile of the participants, but it would have possibly been useful to broaden that. Also, collecting participant demographics such as years in education. As I did my analysis of the data, I found that maybe if I had collected this information, this demographic information, it may have led to a more rich discussion and possibly give insight into, does the experience in education impact a principal's mindset? Also, limitations. The study is not generalizable as the data obviously didn't capture every single person on the planet that meets the criteria. So it was a small sample size that just gives an indication of what might be. I also used only a survey as an approach and a design. And I found as the researcher that it may have been useful if I did to supplement the written survey responses. Had I done unstructured interviews, maybe I would have been able to gather more information and probe a little bit more deeply about how mindset impacts their leadership practice. Now, for the purpose of this research, I focused on 3 specific definitions: growth mindset, fixed mindset, and transformational leadership. And I won't read those, but those are the 3 terms that we're focused on. So the research sought to provide a space through which school administrators could reflect on their mindset and provide feedback on how it has impacted their ability to lead and create change. Now, for chapter 2, these are the topics that are in my actual paper, and I will jump right into it. Now, principals are responsible for developing and maintaining effective teaching and organizational conditions. Now, research from Ogawa and Bossert 95 had classified these activities into 4 categories. So principals are primarily tasked with outlining purpose and goals for the institutions that they lead, creating structure and forming social networks, capacity building for the people that they lead, and also establishing school culture. And I think we would all agree that the mindset that someone leads with as they carry out these activities is important. The leadership approach that they utilize as they carry out these activities are also important. Now, leadership significantly impacts the organizational climate and performance by influencing social structures and relationships, as was asserted by Ogawa. Organizational culture helps to drive change within a group, asserted by Spillane in 2002, and he suggests that an individual's perception of a problem, situational context, knowledge, and beliefs influence change. And where does perception comes from? It comes from the way we think, our mindset. All right, I also did an overview of the research on mindset. And then here we have that organizational leaders who prioritize collaboration over competition among employees are more likely to reward their team members for important lessons learned, even if a project falls short of its original goal. So there's a focus on a growth mindset there. I also look at fixed and growth mindset, and I'll go straight to this diagram here that just gives a brief synopsis of the attributes of a fixed versus growth mindset. As you can see, the person with a growth mindset focuses on how can we grow, how can we learn, how can we focus on effort and focusing on being strategic and persistent, as opposed to in a fixed mindset where the attitude is helpless and defensive, not wanting coaching or anyone to provide input. Now, also in the lit review, I had to review the different types of leadership. And though this study specifically focuses on transformational leadership, we would know that there are different types of leadership approaches, which you can see on the screen. And we are going to go over to the transformational leader. Now, Burns, 1978, defined a transformational leader as an individual who understands the follower's needs and utilizes that knowledge to lead subordinates to make sound decisions. Transformational leadership involves leaders engaging with and influencing others by paying attention to their needs, raising their motivation, and providing an ethical decision-making framework. And in so doing, the focus is always on the transformational leader coaching people to towards change and creating change, not only in the people that they lead and serve, but in the organizations, which will eventually impact the social systems like our communities, etc., etc. The theoretical framework of appreciative inquiry was what was used to guide the creation of the research questions. And here is a diagram that just shows this proposed inquiry model by Dr. Srivastav and Dr. Cooprider. Definition, what is the focus of the inquiry? What gives life? What might it be? So there is always a focus in appreciative inquiry to focus on the possibilities. You would see in the last 10 years where there are a lot of research companies working along with various organizations, and they'll send out these surveys to employees, and they're probing low staff morale. And Dr. Srivastav and his colleague, Dr. Cooprider, they wanted to focus more on the possibilities. And let's not talk about what's not going right. Let's focus on where we are and where we would like to be. And this is the framework that was the premise of the creation of the research questions. All right, so now in summary, while English and Steffi assert that no one theory of leadership will ever sufficiently address or account for all the leadership dimensions that will drive successful performance of a school administrator. So it's not that, you know, as a researcher, I am proposing that if leaders have a growth mindset, then boom, all of a sudden, everything in education will be solved. However, it is more an openness to learning and a mindset of improving each day that will ultimately move the needle in school administrator effectiveness. I'm just going to pause here and ask if everyone will mute their mic. I'm hearing some feedback. I would appreciate it. It's a little bit distracting. Thank you. All right. So chapter 3, methodology. I'll just briefly go over what I focused on for my methodology. This study utilized a qualitative phenomenological approach to explore how growth mindset influences school administrators' ability to be transformational in their leadership approach. And what phenomenology does as an approach, it focuses on the lived experience of the group. And so as a researcher, I thought that this was the best approach to select because it enabled me to study the phenomena of mindset and its impact on transformational leadership. As stated before, I employed a survey research design, and it was supported by the AI change management approach to questions and inquiry. Now for the process, I recruited using purposeful sampling. I had preset my criteria for who I wanted, which I'll go into in slides to come. And then once the participants met the criteria, emails were sent, including information about the study, purpose, significance, and all other information from internal review board when I received IRB approval. And once the participants consented, then the surveys were sent to them via a second email. Now, the preset criteria, I wanted the participants to be diverse. So I had male and female administrators to reduce bias. It was principals and assistant principals in high schools with at least 1 year of successful tenure. So this was to ensure validity and reliability of their perspectives applied over the past year. And also participants included a variety of racial backgrounds, ages, nationalities, and this was to help the research remain on. All right, so the sample population was 10 principals across 10 high schools. The research surveyed 7 principals and 3 assistant principals in the end. Participants were sent the structured open-ended survey questions to gather the data. It was shared via a password-protected Google form, and it included the sub-questions. What did I use for my data analysis process? I used the thematic analysis, the 6-phase thematic analysis, first becoming familiar with my data, then generating codes, themes, reviewing the themes and merging, defining the finalized themes, and then producing the report. For validity and reliability, in the beginning, as a researcher, I had asked 3 school administrators who were not a part of the group of administrators who actually completed the survey. They conducted a professional review of the survey questions and provided candid feedback. Now, what this professional review did, it was very useful because it enabled me as a researcher to improve the rigor of the questions by making minor tweaks. And it was through this validity and reliability step that enabled me to coin sub-questions as was recommended to me in order to elicit more responses and have more data. All the participants were sent all the same information for validity and reliability. And after the initial manual analysis by the researcher, all the information was plugged into Atlas TI-23 software. And this was the final step to increase validity and validity and reduce and eliminate researcher bias. Of course, it is federal law that once you are completing research using human subjects, you have to seek IRB approval through your university. It was sought and approved by Delaware State University. And in closing, for Chapter 3, the design of this study is a qualitative phenomenological investigation guided by appreciative inquiry and supported using survey research design. So let's jump straight into the findings. All right, so participants all joined on a volunteer basis, and pseudonyms were assigned for confidentiality. So instead of sharing with the public domain the participants' names, I had indicated to them that they would be anonymous, so I coded them as participant 1, 2, 3, and so on through to participant 10. A total of 12 participants responded to an email. I had sent it out to 20. A total of 12 responded, and a total of 10 actually completed the survey. Now, the duration of the recruitment, it took me about 3 weeks to receive all the consent forms back from or consenting emails, and then the data collection took place over a 4-week period. Now, after the 10 participants completed the survey in full, the researcher utilized the Google Doc View in Sheets option that automatically collates all responses into one Excel spreadsheet. It was downloaded to my computer under a password-protected Excel sheet, and all the responses for the main and sub-questions were downloaded, and I started to highlight key recurring terms and move through the process. Now, here in phase 1 of the thematic analysis process, the researcher documented and highlighted some information from participants' survey responses. This was necessary to become intimate with the data and to ensure that the data set is being analyzed adequately. Notes were taken and responses were highlighted according to what stood out in relation to the research questions asked in the survey instrument. And I then moved on to process number 2, which was to generate 8 initial codes. All right. Now, Rossman and Rallis in 1998 contended that coding is a process of organizing research data into chunks or segments of text before bringing meaning to the information. So as the data was examined, patterns in meaning throughout the data began to emerge. Key and recurring terms were selectively coded based on what stood out in the responses to the research question. And the process was the basis for identifying these initial 8 codes, which you see before you. And they are presented in the order in which the researcher identified them: operating mindset, mindset attributes, leadership approach, leadership style, management process, communication style, team dynamics, and administrative supports. Now, as the researcher searched for themes in phase 3 of the thematic analysis or process, 63 emerging themes were identified and paired with the 8 initial codes. So at this point, I am pairing themes with codes. Now, operating mindset, you would see the themes that were paired with that. Mindset attributes, leadership approach. I came up with all the themes that I paired there. Now, as the researcher searched for themes in phase 3 of the thematic analysis process, 63 emerging themes were identified and paired with the 8 initial codes. As seen here in this figure, the thematic mapping that you will see in this table and the next shows a visual representation of all 8 initial codes and 63 emerging themes that were assigned across codes based on the manual coding process. The emerging themes capture important points uncovered from the data in relation to the research questions and overarching purpose of the research. The emerging themes are also representative of patterns across the data set. This process proved to be very interactive, and the researcher moved back and forth between the themes to identify commonalities in order to pair these codes. And these are the final 4. Okay. Now for phase 4. Now during phase 4 of the initial manual, during phase 4, the initial manual codes and emerging themes were reviewed. And according to Rossman and Orales, qualitative data analysis is an ongoing process involving continual reflection, asking analytical questions, and writing memos throughout the study. In the ongoing process of data analysis, the tables that were viewed earlier, tables 7.1 and 7.2, as they're documented in the research paper, were tabled. While actively reading over participant documented survey responses, certain words and phrases continued to surface within the context of each research question. And at this point, as the researcher, I started looking at the incidence of the words and phrases across the data set to ensure that there was enough data to substantiate the support of the term being used as a theme or a code. That process led to a further merger that led me to having 3 codes which were merged: growth mindset characteristics, leadership approach and style, transformational leadership characteristics. Then I merged the themes. So the 63 themes were then collapsed here. And then I started mapping them out in relation to the research questions. So the researcher verified that each term identified as a theme is supported adequately within participant responses and marked words and phrases that had an incidence of 5 or more across the data set. Responses that cross-lapped were merged and renamed according to the data. The themes were then connected to merge codes, which were narrowed down into a similar fashion to the themes. And there was a slight change in terminology to ensure accuracy and alignment. And then they were then aligned based on the research inquiries that they sought to answer. Now, a quick summary of phases 2 through 4. So I started out in phase 2 with 8 initial codes. Phase 3, 63 emerging themes were identified, and after the review, it was collapsed to 3 codes and 9 themes. Now here in phase 5, the themes were then defined, and then I coded it based on, or I labeled it based on the code that it was paired with. And these definitions didn't come from the internet or prior research. They were specifically derived based on the responses from the participants. And this was a part of the thematic analysis process. And now for the last phase, now in order for the researcher to write the report, as would have been mentioned earlier in chapter 3, when I was discussing methodology and what I would have done as the researcher, I used Atlas TI-23 as an additional validity tool to strengthen the analysis of the data collected. Okay, and so the participant responses were uploaded to the Atlas TI-23 software as a final step toward enhancing the validity and reliability of the data analysis process. Now, after uploading the compiled data Excel spreadsheet with all the responses to Atlas TI, it revealed the following 15 themes based on occurrence across the data set. Now, what I noticed from the Atlas TI generated AI themes was that there was a lot of similarity between what I had manually coded, which for me was a victory as a researcher. It meant that I was deliberately taking notes to ensure and steps to ensure that my personal bias was not being brought to the data set. As someone who speaks and writes on mindset, that was very important to ensure. And the interesting thing about the Atlas TI information is that it gave me a more accurate reading of the incidence of the occurrence of the word or, the themes. And so with this, I was now able to revise what I thought were my finalized themes. So I did a little table to keep myself structured and focused. So here are the 9 manual themes that were tabled from, the researcher. And then after the thematic observation and what Atlas TI produced, I subsumed theme 1 and merged it with theme 2. Open to learning and growth remained the same, but the definition was updated to reflect some other components. Lifelong learner remained the same because that was pulled by Atlas TI and there was a high incidence there. Practices innovation, I subsumed that within the theme adaptable and innovative. And positive outlook remained the same. Transformational in approach was removed and subsumed within theme 7 because there was not enough data to support it being a standalone theme, but it could have been subsumed within being vision and goal oriented. And then adaptable and innovative remained the same, but it considered practices innovation, and the definition was updated to reflect as such. Accepting mentorship and coaching remained the same because Atlas TI had pulled that. Now, this is the major finalized themes that the researcher moved forward with and that were used to answer the research question. The manual themes were compared against Atlas TI generated themes. The researcher again reviewed the manual highlighted notes from participant survey responses along with themes and information from the AI tool quotation manager within the software. All data sources were carefully reviewed and condensed during the thematic observation process. Previously identified manual themes were examined to see where further mergers could take place based on similarities across the data set. And here we are with the finalized major themes: open to learning and growth, lifelong learner, positive outlook, adaptive and innovative, accepts mentorship and coaching, vision and goal focused. And in keeping with the thematic process of analysis, I had to rework the definitions to pair them with the finalized themes. Let's jump in to the findings. Okay, so this study examined how school administrators' perception of growth mindset influences transformational leadership. Through the completion of the written survey questions, these 10 participants candidly shared their thoughts, feelings and perspectives on how growth mindset influences their leadership. And here they are being paired with the theme that they have aligned with. So you would see the 3 research inquiries and the themes that were aligned with them, and we will go to the findings. What is the impact? What impact does growth mindset have on a school administrator's ability to be transformational in their leadership approach? Finding 1. The answer to the first research question is that growth mindset impacts a leader's ability to be transformational in their approach. Based on the data, the themes indicated that growth mindset caused leaders to be more open to learning and growth. According to research participants, being open to learning and growth meant leaders who set goals that enable themselves and team members to be stretched by remaining open to suggestions for growth and expansion. And that definition came directly from the data set. And here is a visual of the answer to research inquiry 1. Now, participant 1 indicated that a growth mindset does have an impact on her leadership approach. She stated having a good understanding of growth mindset can be impactful on your leadership approach. She also cited some characteristics of a growth mindset as being open to suggestions and change. On sub-question 1.2, she noted the following: I attempt to be transformational at all times and highly value input from others for the betterment of my school. She also spoke to the influence growth mindset had on her ability to effect positive changes in her school, citing that being open to ideas and suggestions can help to improve the school culture. All right, and then I will move on to finding 2. All right, what kind of influence, if any, does a growth mindset have on a leader's ability to grow and effect positive change in the institutions they lead? The finding related to the second research inquiry is that growth mindset influences a leader's ability to grow and effect positive changes in their institutions. The influence of growth mindset on their ability is seen in their commitment to becoming lifelong learners, their ability to be adaptable and innovative, and by helping them to have a positive outlook despite the challenges they face as a school administrator. I want to pause here just to, ask the leaders among us, the school administrators who may have joined, and, just practitioners in the leadership space. How is the information impacting you up to this point? How has what I've been presenting to this point caused you to think and reflect on your own leadership practice and how you can make improvements, adjustments, and changes towards the desired results? All right, so here is a diagram that illustrates the influence of growth mindset on school leadership. One second here. Now, for this specific research inquiry, participant 5, when commenting on research question number 2, said growth mindset does influence her leadership. She cited, I think growth mindset allows me to be flexible, which causes me to remain positive and focus on the goal even when being met with opposition. When sharing about support needed by school administrators to help lead effective schools, and that came out of research question 2.4, which was a sub-question of inquiry 2. She said administrators needed to be guided by persons at the district level who also have a growth mindset. Administrators need to have more autonomy in what programs they want to implement at their schools and have more freedom to use the school's funds to fund these programs. Participant 6 discussed practicing a growth mindset as a leader. In her response to research sub-question 2.2, she said, I have an open door policy and encourage my leadership team and staff to provide feedback and share their ideas about how we're going how we're doing with things and how we can do things better. This directly alludes to the theme being a lifelong learner. She said that she viewed herself as a transformational leader and indicated it is a we effort at my school. She said that when challenges arise, her approach to them is asking for feedback on how the team can work together to become better. The data directly speaks to the theme of being adaptable and innovative. Participant 7, when responding about the support needed by administrators, and that was research sub-question 2.4, he said leadership training is an effective supportive tool that helps administrators effect change as it relates to influence of growth mindset, and how it's impacted positive change at her institution. That was based on a research question 2. She stated, I believe that growth involves change, and in so being open to feedback from my staff and leadership team, embracing challenges and approaching them as opportunities for growth and change have helped me to affect positive change at my school. And that was just a little bit from the participants. Finding 3, and the final one, what are the attributes of a transformational leader? The answer to the third research inquiry is that the ability to be vision and goal focused and a receptivity to coaching and mentorship ranked as the more significant attributes of a transformational leader. And here is a visual that's in my actual research document that just shares information here about the attributes of a transformational leader. Now, the researcher thought it was important at this point. Really, I wanted to share the leadership style occurrence. I was a little bit taken aback by this because no one identified as transactional. Over 80% of the participants identified themselves as a transformational leader. One indicated that they were a mix of transformation and laissez-faire, and then another indicated that they were transformational with a mix of servant leadership. And I thought it was just important to share how participants viewed themselves across the data set. So from this small research, we can't really generalize the results, but it gives us good insight into what other leaders may be thinking about their leadership style and how they rank as they look at how they lead. So in summary, the 6 finalized major themes were used to answer the 3 research inquiries that guided this research. The theme open to learning and growth was used to answer research inquiry 1. The themes lifelong learning, adaptable and innovative, and positive outlook were used to answer research inquiry 2. Vision and goal focus and accepting mentorship and coaching were the 2 themes used to answer research inquiry 3. And the final chapter, implications for practice, recommendations, and conclusions of the researcher. The current phenomenological investigation illustrated the impact of growth mindset on transformational leadership. It has provided a new lens through which we can examine its impact on school leaders as they keep up with the ever-increasing demands of stakeholders in education. Through participant responses, the research data has shown that growth mindset is essential for school administrators as they make important decisions on behalf of the school board in their buildings daily. According to the data analyzed by Davis and Anderson in 2021, 20% of United States school leaders leave their schools each year. This alarming statistic leads to finding ways to support school leaders in their work. The data from this research can continue to help form the basis of support constructs and professional development options offered to school administrators. What are my recommendations? a growth mindset leadership curriculum. Now, if you guys, some of you will know that, well, I did share it at the beginning of my presentation. I used to write curriculum for the Jamaican government. And so one of the things that I saw through the lens of a curriculum designer is that it may be useful for curriculum designers at the higher education level to include growth mindset modules and infuse it within the overall preparation programs for school administrators. So if you're completing a preparation program to become a school administrator, you would be exposed to growth and fixed mindset constructs to become a little bit more present to how you are thinking, why you're thinking this way, and how adapting any particular thinking model or style or approach can impact your leadership once you're recruited as a school leader. So that would have been that's my recommendation for higher education institutions and as they seek to develop transformational leaders. And then my other 4 recommendations would be for school districts in support of school administrators. Here I have created the Gray's Mindset Matters model. Here I am proposing a 4-pronged approach, a mindset mastery mentorship. This would be coordinated by professional learning departments within school districts, and it would be for the primary audience of principals and assistant principals as they engage in development to just develop them over time. Also, the transformation leadership development, that would also be coordinated and developed by professional learning teams for consistent and practical school leader training. I'd like to pause here as someone who has been in the education space for about 22 years now, that there has been a lot of development. We focus a lot on what's going on with students. We focus a lot on what's going on with teachers. I find that there's a lot of training. I've seen what I've seen. I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but I've not seen, and definitely the research is there to support that there is not a huge focus on helping to cultivate school leaders. And with the competing priorities of education today, with the ever-changing needs of incoming students, as we look at the greater accountability that principals have been met with, there are no more accountability. They are now being called to be more accountable to the public, greater transparency. And of course, we know that the first person that gets cut is the leader for any number of problems that are found in any space. And so it is incumbent on us in education to provide spaces through which school administrators too can air their frustrations, reflect, and also become better, because they are human beings just like everyone else, okay? Also, a mindset matters mentorship. So once we develop our leaders, starting on the right-hand side with the mindset mastery mentorship and that transformational leadership component, then the principal can come around to start looking at implementing some constructs within their building. What I'm proposing here is a Mindset Matters mentorship. This would now be coordinated by principals along with their head of departments to be implemented at the school level by teachers, and the focus will be on students. Because what would be the purpose of leaders having a growth mindset and thinking transformational if that is not now going to be extended to teachers and students toward creating a school culture that focuses on growth and transformation? And then lastly here, mindset-sensitive recruitment, coordinated by human resources for implementation during the principal recruitment process. Now, what I'm proposing here is not necessarily using mindset rating scales as a way to eliminate principals from the interviewing process, but rather it could be sent to them before the physical interview and be used as a pathway for the interview team to probe a little bit further into the mindset. We know from research that if we have to always be on the look to be training and developing people constantly to where it's overkill, then maybe we don't have the right people in the right seats. So we want to also ensure that we're recruiting the right people to fill the right seats, and examining their mindset as part of the recruitment process is one thing that I believe as a researcher based on the data would be useful just to probe a little bit further in asking questions before they are hired. We want to make sure that our principals are open to learning and growth, and that they don't mind being coached, and that they are all about building that school culture. Now, overall, this model will help to achieve desired outcomes through a mindset responsive professional development model that enhances administrators. Many states are now using federal funds in the Every Student Succeeds Act, ESSA, which is a plan to focus on instructional leadership and on-the-job principal support, looking at new and innovative approaches toward the improvement of principal supervisory practices in the support and development of school administrators is a current and emerging priority, which we want to focus on. So with state funds being made available for such initiatives in recent years, it makes a good case for this recommendation to be tabled to school districts for national implementation. As a summary of the recommendations made, this proposed model will be further developed by the researcher as a tool to guide conversations with school districts about coordinating growth mindset support for school administrators and the schools they lead. Implications for practice. It becomes imperative then that leaders within educational institutions model the growth mindset they want to see practiced by their staff, students, and parents, and the wider community. Decisions made with a growth mindset will better position all stakeholders to succeed because, as the research data suggests, the school leader will be more open to learning and growth. We will be more likely to see leaders setting goals that enable themselves and their team members to be stretched by remaining open to suggestions, growth, and expansion while they lead. Now, I do have some recommendations for future research. Further research that examines the impact of growth mindset on leaders, irrespective of their leadership approach or style, should be conducted. Of course, this research looked at or examined the impact of growth mindset on transformational leadership, but there are multiple leadership styles. We have transactional, we have servant leadership, we have the authoritarian leadership type. There are several. So we want to ensure that we are positioned to provide some type of data on how growth mindset impacts these other leadership styles. And findings from such future research could help curriculum designers within principal preparation programs by providing insight on and guidance on how to revise and improve curriculum models for emerging school leaders. Further research should examine the impact of mentorship. So now that I've proposed this mindset mentorship, maybe someone can come along behind me as a researcher and look at the impact of this mindset mentorship on school leaders. Does it work? Is it impactful? And to what extent has it been able to cause transformation? An insight derived from such studies may help guide professional learning teams on how to roll out mentorship programs a little bit more effectively. Also, it is suggested that further research be conducted to examine how school leaders display being more open to suggestions. I think it's important in educational settings for us to examine how open leaders are to actually taking suggestions, because it's one thing to say that I'm open to suggestions. It's another thing to accept the suggestion and discuss it with your team. And then it's another thing to actually act on the suggestion. And if we are not taking action on the suggestions provided to us, especially if they've been proven to work, then that may be a disconnect in the leadership approach and what happens in the decision-making rooms in schools. And in conclusion, this study has made a solid contribution to the ongoing research on mindset and leadership. The findings of this research suggest that a growth mindset positively impacts transformational leaders and causes them to affect positive change over time. When a growth mindset is used as an approach, especially in decision-making, it sets the foundation for openness and growth within institutions. Increased exposure to growth mindset leadership approaches will help equip school administrators to strengthen their leadership practice, effectiveness, and improve school culture and climate. Being intentional about growth mindset training and development can help school administrators create environments that help teachers and students be more successful, and transformational leaders who are receptive to coaching and mentorship tend to be better agents of change within schools as they are adaptable and innovative. And until we look at new approaches to help strengthen the effectiveness of school leaders, the problems that are so prevalent in education today may go unsolved. Issues such as principal burnout or high teacher attrition rates and poor student performance based on national norms and standardized tests may continue to plague the education system until we pause and examine the mindset and interventions that are currently not adequately addressing the real issues. And here is a link to my very extensive reference list. I think I had about 7 pages, well researched and well documented. I close and I hand the floor back over to my dissertation chair, Dr. Alexander. Thank you so much for listening.
Great job. Great job. It's the first thing I'm going to say. Great job. Let me let you all know, y'all, in the beginning, SallyAnn was talking about her nerves, and I promise you all, I couldn't tell. Even as a faculty member here at the university, there are times where even I'm never speaking in front of my students. Your nerves are nothing but you wanting to not only present something in the best way possible, but it's also, it's security in knowing that I do know this and I want everyone to recognize that. And you did that well. Let me tell you, I couldn't tell that, okay, SallyAnn's nervous. She's slowing down, she's speeding up. Amazing job. Amazing job. Truly. And I'm specifically saying that because SallyAnn is one of the students who she is always quick to, participate. She's quick to take initiative and support others. And you all have seen that level of confidence and assurity today. So I think she definitely deserves a round of applause. This has been great. And even look at the time. You kept it right under time and presented all of the information the best way you could. So it's definitely, she deserves a round of applause. Before you all unmute yourselves, the committee and I, we're just going to have some time to ask questions, give some comments. And during this time, this is not a formality to challenge SallyAnn or to cause her to rethink her knowledge base, but it's to provide more of an opportunity for her to expound upon her information. It's time for us to continue to take a deep dive into her research. So I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Beaumont if she has any questions first, and then I will take the floor.
All righty. Sorry. So I hope you can hear me clearly. I apologize yes. for the double situation. As you all know, in the beginning, I had an issue. I couldn't hear anybody at all. So I had to go with my phone. I'm using 2 devices. So forgive me here. Sally, I'm telling you, you did an awesome job. And as Dr. Alexander said, you were really on the ball, so to speak. So I must commend you for your level of composure, the level of composure that you exhibited throughout the presentation. This I'm really getting chills, so bear with me. But definitely your topic related strongly to exactly what you set out to do. The quality of work that went into connecting your methodology, for example, with your analysis and discussion was phenomenal. Really good, a good job. I just wanted to ask one quick question though, and just for clarification, I have an idea, but I just want to make sure that everyone is aware of the fact that yes, you use quite a bit of data collection procedure. Your subjects were well intended in a sense of collecting the valid data that you wanted to connect with your research questions. But just, I don't know if you had mentioned it, it wasn't clear to me, just quickly, in an effort to avoid biases, you identified 3 reviewers, you said. So I just wanted to know if you had any specific procedure in selecting these individuals. Were they randomly selected, or was it just a matter of convenient sampling or so? Just a little bit for clarification.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bowman, for all your help. You were very tough on me for chapter 4. But I appreciate it because I ended up coming out as pure gold. Now, to answer your question about the persons who were selected, they were purposely selected by me as educators that I had seen in the space and observed, in my opinion, to be transformational. They had all been leaders for over 20 years, and I just wanted their personal input on the research instrument, just to give me their feedback. So that was, it was a purposeful sampling, just like what I used for the official research. And I had preset that criteria. I wanted principals who had led and led well, in my opinion, who had been transformative and who had been in the education space for over 20 years.
Well done. Well explained, Thor, and I would say it was valid. I could go on, but as I said, I'm getting chills and I'm excited, so excited for you and where you've come. Yes, I know I was a little bit hard on the chapter 4, but you were able to utilize all those diagrams to the point where you actually got to creating your own model, which I thought was outrageously successful. So I do agree with what you created in your Greece mindset model, and hopefully it will create an impact on transformation leadership as we proceed through the field of education. So well done again, as I said. And one point that you made at the end, I know I'm gabbling on, but one point that you made at the end in terms of the connection to administrators and where they are today. Yes, there has been a lack of, as an educator in Jamaica for several years as well, there has been a lack of accountability towards the leaders in the island. And I'm happy to see that you stress this, and even to the fact that we know that the point you made regarding the leaders to be more actively involved in the whole reflective process so that they can help the community or the provide resources, and also get involved, encourage everyone to get involved in this action research process where they themselves as leaders will be on top of the game that they are, or the challenges that they're in, should be associated with in developing new trends for our education system. So well done. I could say more, but we will talk. Great job.
Thank you so much, Dr. Beaumont.
Thank you, Dr. Beaumont. Okay. Thank you. There are 2 questions, and then I only have 2 specific questions. I will ask those at the end. So another question that was provided from one of your other committee members was, could you continue to expound upon the Gray's Mindset Matters model?
Okay, well, it starts with focusing a little bit on recruitment practices for administrators. You know, there's a term in education that says we want the right people in the right seats. And, you know, if we have to be training you every week, I mean, training and development over time is important, but if we have to be constantly bombarding our leaders with training, it may be that we don't have the right people in the right seats. And so that mindset sensitive recruitment is aimed at, you know, hey, let's take a look during the recruitment process and probe and ask some questions and try to get insight as the recruitment team as to how the leader thinks and how they would approach problem solving, and deep dive a little bit and use that as the basis for making our decisions. Also, as I would have stated, I believe that there is not enough attention placed on school administrators. And, you know, we want to make sure that, you know, we're providing the right support systems to help school administrators be successful, because we require a lot of them. The world requires a lot of them. The board requires a lot of them. The community and parents are requiring a lot of them. And who supports the leader? And so that's the premise upon which the mindset, the Gray's Mindset Matters model was tabled.
Awesome.
Of course, once my research is approved by the committee and submitted through ProQuest, y'all will have it, will be available in the world, and you can review, and there's some more information in the actual paper that explains.
Thank you. Another question from the committee was, looking at the research that you have now finalized, you're finished, you have completed chapter 4 and 5. Going back to your research questions, looking at your findings, what information do you believe you still want to know a little more about? If you could go back to this knowledge base and say, okay, now I'm going to expand upon this study, what would you like to ask? What would you want to know?
I really want to know, how is it that growth mindset impacts other leadership styles? I really want to know, because I don't think everyone is a transformational leader. And I think it's important to further probe to get some information about that, because that will help to impact the Gray's Mindset model, right? It will help to impact the recommendations that are being tabled to higher education institutions as to how we're creating curriculum within principal preparation programs, and also looking at how they're going to be developed once they fall into that principal role. And so I think it's important, even though this data set had 80% or more of principals identifying as transformational, we know that it's not generalizable. And we do know that there are other types of leaders out there in schools. So I think that that would be the top of my curiosity list. I would like to see the impact there.
Thank you. And then my two final questions. So the first final question, and once again, as I've said to everyone, this is just a time for us to take a little more of a deep dive. So my first question to you, this is going to go regarding to some of your cohort members who will one day be sitting in the seat that you're in currently. What advice would you give them when it comes to the research, the dissertation process, or anyone on this call who may one day want to get a graduate level degree?
Consistency, blocking out the blinders, silencing the noise. There comes a time when you have to just focus specifically on the prize and what you have before you. I've had to cut off social media in different times, not completely, but for like a week at a time, because that just couldn't be my focus. I had to not take calls. I had to just remain very focused and, you know, focus on me just wanting to finish this. I have also read the research that many doctoral students, it is right at this place, right as you have completed all your coursework, and you are going through the research process, it's very easy to give up after chapters 1 and 2, you know, and just be like, it's too much for me. And this is where a lot of people stop. or take a break. And if you take a break, you may never come back, right? So it's just to remain consistent and keep your eye on the prize and just block out what needs to be blocked out so that you can just get this thing done.
Awesome. Thank you. And then the final question is, how has this research challenged your perspective of what it means to be a leader? Because I know that was one question that I was answering to myself throughout reading your research.
Mm-hmm. What it means to be a leader. Oh my goodness. There are so many aspects of leadership. There are so many requirements of the leader. It is not easy to lead, and especially in the space of education, where we know in the world that a man's most prized treasure is their child, right? And so being tasked with the education and development of other people's children, of human beings, is it's no small feat. And so what I think what came home to me, I think I always knew it, but it came home to me the immense responsibility that we have as educators, as we lead, as we make decisions. We ought to be making decisions like, hey, this is my own child in front of me. And so it's incumbent on us to ensure that we are working with the right mindset to ensure the best results for people's children and for our own. You know, at the end of the day as well, the students that we educate today are the ones who will be taking care of us in the world tomorrow. And I am very concerned about some of the students that we're turning out. And so it's incumbent on us that we have to do something about it to ensure that tomorrow is better, that the world is better, is a better place as we get older and as our children and grandchildren become adults. And it starts in education. It does start in the home, but we're not talking about the home, but it's important what we do in the school buildings.
Thank you very much. That's all the questions that I have. Like I said, some of the questions from Dr. Beaumont and the others from your committee, you know, this was really, like I said, it was just another deep dive. And truly, you have presented this information in a flawless way. You really have. Dr. Rathy would say gold standard. So I'm going to take her words and I'm going to say gold standard. If I get in trouble for copyright, I'll deal with that later on. But truly, this has been great. Dr. Hazel Beaumont and I, we've been chatting on the side, and I am going to turn it over to her for her next announcement.
All righty. So again, everyone, family, friends, colleagues, I am so happy to be a part of this committee, being instrumental in being SallyAnn's co-chair. And so as a fellow Jamaican and another yardie going through the door, I want to say congratulations, SallyAnn. You did it. You did it. Dr. SallyAnn Gray, well done. Welcome to the Fourth of Doctors. So we explode with gratitude for your time with us, and also the fact that you will be a valuable contributor to the field of education in the future. So congratulations, Dr. Gray. Well done.
Feel free to unmute yourselves, everyone. This is that moment. Feel free to unmute yourself.
Great work,
Yay,
Sally.
Sally.
Dr. Gray.
Yes.
Proud of the
Dr. Gray.
Congrats, congrats,
Your
Dr.
hard
SallyAnn
work and
Gray.
dedication
Dr.
paid off,
SallyAnn
Sally.
Gray.
Awesomeness. Sally.
Thank
Right?
SallyAnn, it's Miss Davis. Thank you, girl. You did a wonderful job.
Great job.
Congratulations, Sally.
Sally Cap, Sally Cap.
I must say,
Gray.
okay.
We are so
Dr.
nice.
I'm going to find that Gray's model.
Yes.
I know where you are.
Awesome.
Dr. Gray, I just want Dr. Gray. Dr. Gray, I
Dr.
just
SallyAnn
want you
Caps.
to know.
Oh, we can't big you up.
I
Big up
just want you
yourself.
to know that I'm very proud of you. And the day you started the program and told me was the day I saved your number as Dr. SallyAnn Gray in my phone.
Yes, and over to Sally.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yes, congratulations, Sally.
Oh.
I am super proud of you, girl. I know You know, you had sleepless nights, the road was rough and tough, but guess what? We're in this little clique together and we keep encouraging each other. And I am so proud of you this morning to know that, yes, I sit and I observe, and yes, girl, you've done it. Job well done. Congratulations.
I want to pause here just to say, to God be every single glory. I have to big up my husband, Mark, and my children, Malachi and Sarah. They have been such a tremendous support to my mother and my father, Marjorie and Silver and Sharp, and my mother-in-law, Evelyn, who are joining from Jamaica. I could not do it without the support of my family. And of course, all my friends. I don't want to start singling out friends. To my friends in J67, though, who are a part of my cohort, I'm just so grateful for the camaraderie, for the support, for the accountability, for the calls. It has been a journey. I didn't know, guys, you know, I have registered for course and withdrawn from the course. I said, this is too much. And I would get a call and I would hear, no, we have to get back on course. So I'm just so grateful. Thank you to everyone. To God be everything.
I also want to give another supportive shout out to cohort 67, who have all supported SallyAnn during this time, because we have some other students who are coming right behind her. Donna, Kamisha, Laverne, Glendor, Latoya as well. So they will be right here as well. So I tell everyone, if you know those individuals I just named, I am expecting to see you all soon. So we're all currently working with those students, and they will soon be doctors and joining our fold as well. So once again, Dr. Gray, it's great to be in this moment right before the holiday season. As I told SallyAnn earlier on, this is the day where you turn off your laptop. You want to know what? You can just go ahead and disengage all emails and just find time to celebrate. I'm not sure if we all have to take a flight to SallyAnn's house, but I think we need to find where she lives and just show up there and celebrate. So I'm just going to say maybe Thanksgiving at Dr. Gray's home. Not sure. We'll figure that out. But I think some kind of way, just find that time to celebrate, because this is definitely a milestone that's worth celebrating. And of course, as a committee chair, you know, this would not have been, you know, an amazing moment without Dr. Tana Jackson, Dr. Rathy, Dr. Hazel Beaumont, as well as Dr. Sasso coming in and supporting as well. So no way, shape, or form is this an individual committee accomplishment. It really took all of us, as well as SallyAnn's vision, to really get to this moment. And SallyAnn, you did this, you know, in a beautiful fashion, and it's definitely your day. So we're going to mark our calendars. Wednesday, November the 22nd, 2023. This is officially Dr. Gray's day. So I think it's just an amazing time. It's truly an amazing time. And then before we close out, I'm just going to have one more simple question for Dr. Gray. And that is, can you give us your first official words as Dr. Gray?
Well, I say, to God be every single glory, because if it wasn't for God, I don't know, I would not have been able to complete this process. I'm so grateful. I'm so humbled, and I just give God all the praise. Thank you. Thank you to Dr. Alexander and my entire research committee, Dr. Beaumont, Dr. Rathi in her absence, Dr. Tana Jackson. I appreciate you guys, and thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. I'm gonna go celebrate now. Oh, guys.
Thank you. Well, at this time, y'all, this is officially the closing of the Now Dr. Gray's final defense. I wish everyone safe travels on your way home. If you're going to go see family, safe travels. Enjoy this time. And to all of you, when you get off work, if you have the day off tomorrow or any day this week, make sure that you put inside of your emails out of the office. Enjoy the free time, because I'm going to do that as soon as this is over. I'm going to put up out of the office. Yes, and of course, to all of our students, who are here, enjoy the weekend. Know that your professors, we are all beyond proud of you, and we cannot wait for you to join SallyAnn on the other side of the goal line. But everyone, enjoy the rest of your day and the rest of your week.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Just a quick word, Dr. Alexander. I want to say that as another Jamaican who is here in the United States and at Delaware State, thank you all for joining. And I know this is going to be a happy Thanksgiving for everyone, especially Dr. Gray. So,
yes.
See y'all.
Thank you. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you. Bye-bye. Are we logging off, Dr. Alexander?
We are.
All right. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.